that you've built up, that you've nurtured, you've loved, and getting some cash out of the deal. One of the first questions that we get all the time is, why the hell would anyone sell their site? Isn't that like selling the golden goose? Where I'm selling this thing like that I worked my ass off to make some money. It's finally making money, I'm gonna sell it? Hell no, I wouldn't do that. And so we get this question from buyers, like prospective buyers, that it doesn't make any sense to them. Maybe they failed at building sites themselves and they're like, if I know that if I built this site and I made that much money, I'd never sell it.
We also get it from builders too. I mean, some early on builders that are just starting off like you guys may say, wow, once I get to $5,000 a month, there's no way I would sell that site. So we'll cover some of the reasons that you might want to do that.
And what I think, or how I view this, is that the websites aren't the geese, they're actually the eggs, right? So it's your skill set that you learned or that Antrim sold you in terms of like how to build these types of sites, right? And how to do this and repeat that process over and over again. That's your golden goose, right? The websites are just the eggs that they keep producing over and over again. So yeah, so those are the things those are some of the reasons I think that you're not selling off your baby, you're just selling off the product of your baby. That sounds gross. So let's look at some of the actual reasons we've had for people that were selling their websites. One of the guys wanted to pay off his mortgage to own his house debt-free. So I'm sick of paying my mortgage. I know if I sell this site, I'll be able to pay off my mortgage, and I'm done paying a mortgage. So that's a pretty good reason, right? He's sick of paying on a mortgage, wants to live there, and that was it. He had a website, he wanted to sell it, he was done. Another one, there are a couple of guys, they're here in Chiang Mai actually, and they've sold with us, and they're selling off websites to purchase rental properties and condos in Australia. So they're selling their virtual property so they can purchase physical properties in Australia and make the cash long-term there. So they're diversifying their entire portfolio by building the virtual stuff, hanging on to some, selling the rest off, and buying actual condos.
I will tell you that as brokers, a lot of times we get like the investing in other projects typical answer. And what we try to do is we really try to peel back the onion and dig down why a seller is really selling. So that's why we're coming up with these reasons, because once we start drilling down on why people need the money, they really open up to us.
Yeah, there's the typical bullshit answer. I'm going to invest in other projects. Right? That's the easy one. I'm going to invest in other projects. So it is kind of like peeling back the onion to get away the layers and find out the real reason. The reason for us, well, from a buyer's perspective, right? If a buyer can find out why you really want to sell, they can leverage that in the negotiation to get you what you want at a minimal basis. From our perspective, because we're actually representing sellers, we can make sure that we're getting you the deal that you're actually looking for, right? And that's why we want to know what you need. Another person we had, it was him and his wife, they wanted to adopt a baby, and that's pretty expensive, and so he was selling his site so he could afford to have a baby. Like, that's kind of cool. So like these are the types of things that actually help. That's changing his life, right? If he can sell this site and have the baby that him and his wife have dreamed of and couldn't have, whatever, that's cool shit. Another guy was selling his $2,500 a month site to double down on marketing for a business that he had that was making $30,000 a month in net profit. So he wanted to dump some of that into the big baby that he has, because he thinks he can take that to FU money, basically. Another guy, this happened a few times, but bored with the niche and not spending any time on it, and they want to sell before the site goes to shit. So maybe it's just a niche you're just not interested in. You've got a baby strollers dropshipping site, and you're not babies anymore. They're all grown, or I'm never gonna have babies, and I just don't want to do this anymore. Rather than letting it just kind of decline into nothing, you might as well sell it off and then start working on new projects. You have that extra cash cushion.
Yeah, I would say this is a big thing. I mean, if you guys see your revenues declining because of neglect, that makes it a much harder sale for us as brokers. Steady or slightly inclining, or obviously drastically inclining sites in terms of revenue or traffic are much easier to sell. And those are the businesses that buyers are after. So before you start neglecting your site, consider selling.
And this board thing really resonates with us. We actually made this mistake. We had a company called Twitter, and it sold Twitter backgrounds, and it was doing really well, a couple $1,000s a month. in profit. And we didn't do anything with it. We just kind of let it sit there and worked on other projects. And we just didn't care about it anymore. And it got down to a couple $100 a month over the course of a few years. And rather than doing that, we probably should have sold it for, I don't know, $40,000, $50,000.
Yeah, this is a business we actually bought. We bought it on Flippa for $5,000. We probably could have flipped it at the height when we were really promoting it for, $50,000. And we didn't do that. And we wound up just giving it away for free.
Yeah. So don't do that. Be smarter than us. Sell your stuff. If you're done with it, right? So this is our indulgent, ego-boosting social proof segment. You can't see those numbers very well, but I'll just tell you, 760,000 visits to Empire Flippers through September 2014. We've sold $1.3 million to the websites overall since we've been tracking it in the marketplace. We sold 1.5 now, actually.
Yeah.
$258,000 on websites sold last month in September, and
September was our biggest month ever. So we really had a huge month thanks to Mike and Vincent and a lot of hard work on the phone. But we're very excited about the direction our company is taking.
We've got 515,000 podcast downloads overall. We get about 15,000 to 18,000 podcast downloads a month. So
I'm always amazed that 500,000 people may have downloaded and listened to our podcast. But anyone here listen to our podcast at all ever?
Yeah, buddy. Nice. So we've this industry is big and it's growing. So people are buying websites. It's surprising, but our problem is not finding buyers. It's the craziest thing to me. It makes no sense. Like, I would think I'd have a harder time finding buyers because I'm asking them to give me $50,000 for a site, and hopefully they can build it out or whatever. Instead, it's harder to find sellers. It's harder to find profitable sites, established sites. So our real challenge is finding sellers. We've got more buyers than we do sellers, basically. So we're looking to correct that by talking to you guys. If you're interested in selling.
Wink, wink.
So let's talk a little bit about the three main options you have when selling your site. So it's not all about the EF show. There are three. So you can do it yourself. This would include things like cold calling website owners if you're looking to buy. For a seller, it'd be contacting your competitors, right, and seeing if they're interested in potentially picking up your site as a strategic purchase. If you sell lampshades, for example, and there's a larger company in the home furnishing niche, they might want to buy your site, just buy you out completely because they know that your lampshade customers will buy other shit from them. They can cross-promote it.
Really easiest way to sell your site. So if you're very interested in selling, that's one of the first things you should do is approach those other people in your niche.
Strategic buyers will generally give you the highest valuation because they don't get money on just the earnings that you get right now. So we would help you sell based on a multiple of your net monthly profit, where a strategic buyer has value in your customer base, right? So the customers that you're bringing in, they can cross-promote their other stuff too. So if your site's making, let's say, $1,000 a month in net profit, with us it would sell for $20,000, whereas a strategic buyer may see $25,000 or $30,000 as being reasonable because they're going to be able to profit on your customers. The other option is the auction or the aggregators, and this would include sites like Flippa.com, which is kind of the eBay of buying and selling websites. There's another company called BizBuySell, and they generally do like offline businesses, but they do have websites for sale there as well, online businesses. And then there's another company called Centurica. It's run by a guy named Justin Gilchrist, super sharp dude. And they have an aggregator that looks at a bunch of different brokers and pulls their listings into their feed.
Anyone here use Flippa? Anyone ever use Flippa?
Yeah, mixed bag. You can definitely make some money on Flippa. You can find some gems there. We're going to get into that a little later, but it's a mixed bag. Centurica, by the way, I'll talk about that later actually. Brokers. So the third option would be brokers, be guys like us, obviously Empire Flippers. There's FE International, which used to be Flipping Enterprises. There's a guy, Thomas Smalley over there, is a cool guy to talk to. There's another larger brokerage called Quiet Light Brokerage. And these guys generally do probably $500,000 or more for their site. They're looking at kind of like the higher end for website brokering. So, those are your three different options. We're going to go through some advantages and disadvantages for each of the different platforms for you to take a look at. First, let's look at the do-it-yourself approach. So some of the advantages to the do-it-yourself approach is competitors and strategic buyers are often going to pay you more money. So you're likely to get more cash for your site from a strategic buyer because they see the value in your customer base. Has anyone actually sold a website here before? Sold one of their own? Okay.
All right.
We got a few sellers. The other benefit with doing it yourself is that you don't pay the listing or broker fees. So you don't have to pay anyone else. You can go direct to your competitors and they can buy your website. One of the disadvantages, some of the disadvantages with the do-it-yourself approach is that you have to open up the books to your competitors. So you're shopping them and say, okay, here's my numbers, here are the keywords people are finding me at, here are here are the paid traffic methods I'm using, and they can then decide whether or not it's worth buying you or just recreating it themselves and stealing your shit. So that's concerning. There's also a lot of work you have to do to reach out and find these potentially interested strategic buyers. So you don't know who's on the market, you're not sure, you're gonna have to contact them and do a lot of legwork to finally get that buyer. So if they pay more, but it might be more difficult and you may not be a good pickup, and you have to go through quite a few until you find the right one.
Yeah, this is, I think, the major disadvantage of doing it yourself. Obviously, if the money thing is big to you, then maybe it's worth it, but a lot of the running around and contacting and qualifying buyers is something you have to do yourself. If you don't have any experience doing that, it might be tough.
So let's look at some of the auction or aggregator advantages and disadvantages. The advantages are they have a baked-in audience. So you already got exposure kicking in. They've got a bunch of people on Flippa that are going looking to buy sites. So you probably don't have that audience. Flippa has that audience already. So they've got that baked in already. They're spending a ton of money on driving new buyers to their site. So you've got that done for you. And the major advantage I'd say with using an auction or aggregator is that all listings are approved. So with brokers, we have a failure rate. So people submit their sites and we do not accept certain listings for a host of reasons that we'll get into a little later. But Flippa will always take your listing. Unless it's, I don't know, porn or...
Yeah, I think there are some things that are not allowed. But
almost all, 98% of listings they'll take. So you can sell your site on Flippa. That's good. Some disadvantages would be that generally you're going to get a lower sales price. And the reason for this is Flippa, there are a ton of scams on Flippa. There are some sites that are just not legitimate. So even though your site is legitimate, you're grouped in with a bunch of the scams. And so it's a positioning thing, right? So you're right next to all these other sites that are probably illegitimate. It ruins the I think, look and feel of your site. It's not a premium or a high quality site.
This is especially true at the lower end, because there's a lot of lower end crap out there on Flippa. For those of you who've used it, you probably know that. And that's why baked into the price is just a very low multiple. So sellers looking to sell on that platform, that's going to be a big disadvantage.
Yeah, it's an advantage for buyers because if you know how to weed through the crap, you can find a few gems. But from a selling perspective, it sucks. The other disadvantage, I'd say, with the auction or aggregators is that you have to expose your niche. So you're going to have to put your domain in. I mean, they do have a hidden, but you would never use that on Flippa because you won't get any exposure. You have to actually show your domain. You have to show all the traffic and earnings information in the auction. And what that does is it can create a ton of copycats. So there's actually there was a course at one time they were selling on the Warrior forums, like a $50 purchase, and it walked you through the process of finding our username on Flippa, looking at our previous auctions, and showing people exactly how to recreate all of those sites.
Yeah, we used to sell on Flippa before we had our own marketplace, and the reason why we created our own marketplace was because people didn't want the niches or the URLs exposed to everyone on Flippa. So they came to us and said, hey, can you sell it to me privately? And then sellers started coming to us and say, hey, can you sell my site privately? So that's why we created the marketplace in terms of having this privacy effect.
It's not so bad for sellers. It hurts your buyers, right? Because you're selling the site, right? You're walking away like whatever happens, happens. But if the buyer has to deal with 24 copycats that have now had this niche exposed, and they can target it and recreate the site, it's problematic for them. This is especially true for sites that don't have much of a moat around them, right? They're not as defensible as some other businesses. So like a fledgling dropshipping business is definitely in that position. Once that business has built a brand and you're now sourcing products, and you've got a really strong brand, it's not, it's not easily copied.
Yeah, we definitely see this with sites that are smaller sites that maybe don't rank #1 or #2, don't have their own product, are just drop shipping other sites.
All right, let's look at some broker advantages and disadvantages. The main advantage, let's say with the brokers, you're going to get the highest sales value, so you're more likely to get paid the most amount of money from a broker. That's aside from strategics. That's actually the highest.
Yeah.
Brokers will probably be the second highest.
Obviously, we're compensated. We get a percentage of the sale, so we're compensated to sell at the highest amount that we can.
The other advantage is that it's done for you, no hassle. So we're dealing with all the tire kickers and trying to shop around and find the right person and putting all your information together. You don't have to deal with any of that. Transferring the site to the new buyer, all that stuff's done for you. That does not necessarily, there's some disadvantages too when you work with brokers. One of the disadvantages would be you're going to pay the highest fees when you work with brokers. So you're going to pay somewhere between 10 and 20% of the listing will go to the broker generally. And that not all brokers will accept all listings. So we reject probably 30 to 40% of the people that have paid money to list their site with us. We refund the listing fee, but they pay us money and we look at it and say, nope, not good enough. And the reason we do that is because we want to keep a very premium look and feel. We don't want to waste our buyers' time. And so we do have to reject some sites that, we get paid on the sold deals, man. So I want to sell deals, but we just can't take some shit sites.
Yeah.
All right, so here's our value proposition. And I think what kind of separates us from Flippa and from some of the other brokers. With us, you don't have to disclose the niche. So we don't list the URL. We don't list all the keywords. We don't list all that. That only goes to paid depositors. If people paid a deposit on the site and are interested, we'll get that. So you don't get a bunch of copycats. It'll be much more limited. All listings go through a rigorous vetting process that we put them through that we've determined is good for our buyers.
Yeah, if you've used Empire Flippers before, I don't know if anybody has, but all the sites actually go through our staff. Our staff gets all the information together, but final approval still goes through me. I look at every site that goes on the marketplace, and I either approve or deny it based on what my staff has collected and the picture they painted for me. So, we're not some sort of huge company that's just rubber stamping stuff.
We also have buyer-seller protection that goes through escrow. So you're not going to have both the seller end up with the site and the cash. You're not going to have the buyer end up with both the site and the cash. It's virtually, no one's going to get scammed in terms of getting both. Yeah. So we actually offer that as a service, so no one's going to end up with both and screw the other party.
Technically, according to U.S. banking laws, we can't call ourselves an escrow company because you have to have 10 times the amount in some account somewhere or something like that. But
we're effectively escrow.
We're effectively escrow in that we hold on to the money.
Lovingly escrow.
We make sure that everything is transferred to the new owner and is working properly before we release that funds to the seller. And that's huge for buyers, and buyers love that about our service. Yes, there are third-party platforms like escrow.com that do that, but they don't handle the migration for you. They don't handle all the little details. Basically, both people just have to click a button, I agree. And so things could happen, and it's nice to have someone in the middle that can fix that.
Yeah, most people aren't in the selling website business, so trying to transfer your site over to a new buyer, making sure you get everything right, a Shopify account or whatever, can be daunting, and so that's a service that we offer because we do it on a regular basis.
Yeah, I would say probably a lot of you in here use the Shopify platforms. I know that's what Anton recommends, but that's something that we would help transfer and make sure that the new owner understood and was had under his control. Including the domain name, the revenue source, all that kind of stuff.
The last bit I'll mention that we're getting into is basically an investor option. So, we're working with, we have a bunch of buyers that want to be investors. They're interested in being investors. They don't care about content. They don't care about looking for new products or new suppliers. So what they want to do is basically put the money in, buy the site, and then have our team run that. So we're actually working on that now. We've got an alpha test where we're working with strictly investors and running the sites for them.
Yeah, it's a really interesting way of buying and selling sites. So, these guys really don't want to be involved at all, like Justin was saying. They just want that monthly dividend from their money, and we can provide a very good return on investment by managing their site.
Anyone have investments like online or offline investments and know a little bit about like rate of returns, ROI. So like this is the crazy thing with websites, right? You buy a website, let's say $100,000, makes $5,000 a month in net profit. By the end of the year, right? You've made, let's assume nothing changes, doesn't grow, it doesn't go down. You've made 60% return on your money on that investment. That's insane. And the only reason you're able to do that right now is because it's an emerging market. That shit's gonna close. So we're hoping we can get involved in it in the meantime, because as more and more investors get into that, that's how it happens. Like the margins go to shit, and then everyone's sucking up all the profit. So anyway, let's talk about what you guys can do to sell your site. We're gonna go kind of like a 6-month out process, because there are things you need to do leading up to a sale that are important if you want to get maximum value for your site. So the first thing is that at 6 months out, this is going to be your last chance to make any changes. These are things like, changing your link profile, changing your content, any kind of internal, external SEO. The reason 6 months out is kind of your last time to make these changes is that it takes a couple of months before Google's going to start recognizing these changes, and you want to make sure that stuff happens and you're realizing the earnings and the benefit from that, so that you can then sell your site with those improved earnings. We generally sell sites based on the previous 3 months at an average of the previous 3 months. So if you make the changes 6 months out and it takes 2 months to make the changes, you'll feel the effects the 4 months up until the sale.
This is especially true for monetization method changes. So like, let's say at an Amazon site that you change to a dropship site. You want to do that 6 months out. You don't want to do that, so like a month ago. Otherwise, the buyer is going to have to track all these changes, and you might get a reduced amount of money on your site.
You don't want to do any internal link changes a month before selling that could totally screw it up and make your site look crappy for a buyer. You might end up selling at a heavy discount because of the hit that your site took. You also want to start tracking your revenue, your costs, and your time. So it's one of those things where you don't always track your net profit on one store. Maybe you're looking at your business overall across multiple stores. You need to start breaking out each individual store, make sure you're accounting for your time on each store, because the buyer is going to want to know how much time you're spending on that store specifically.
Yeah, I'm amazed at how many times we get submissions from people that just don't know how much they're working on their site. We see this a lot.
Definitely in the under $100,000 range, because you have multiple sites that you're working on. You're not like breaking your time up for this site or that site. It's kind of like all your business, right?
Yeah, an example would be we recently got a dropship site, well, I guess an e-commerce site that they sourced their own products. They sold hillbilly glasses, so it's like wine glasses that were mason jars that they made into wine glasses, and it was a great site. It made a little bit of money. It made like $1,000 a month or something like that net profit after expenses. And the guy said, "Oh, I only spent about 2 hours a month, 2 hours a week rather on it, marketing, that kind of thing." Oh, this is great. It's gonna be perfect for our platform. And then we started drilling down, and I said, "Well, where are you getting the mason jars from?" And so, "Oh, I'm building them." "Oh, what do you mean?" "Well, Grandma sits in the garage all day long, 30 or 40 hours a week, making the actual glasses." So I'm like, well, when we sell this, how are we going to head?
Does Grandma come with the site? Does Grandma scale?
Yeah. So you really gotta look at these things and make sure that it's reasonable if you're going to sell the site.
Another thing you can do is 6 months out. This is great, actually. Is Centurica, that company I mentioned before. They offer due diligence reports, right? And so buyers can go to Centurica.com and order a due diligence report. Why not do it yourself as a seller 6 months out? Get the basic report and get an idea on like what the kind of hot spots are that kind of make your site look less attractive to a buyer, and start fixing it now. So you can start cleaning up your profile, cleaning up your website, so that when it comes time to buy, if someone orders that report, you've already fixed, you've done the 80-20 on that shit, and you've cleaned up the report.
Yeah, Centurica tends to be very conservative in their reporting. So it's pretty important that you get these things fixed early on. Some of them are things that we can address during the sales process for sure, but some of them are things that would be nice to have fixed before we put a site up for sale.
You're also going to want to cut any expenses or maximize profits. And these are things like, sometimes you have exploratory marketing out there, right? So you're doing some paid traffic, some paid advertisements that may not have an ROI, you're gonna want to start cutting that shit back, right? Anything that's exploratory, and only go with the things that have an ROI. It's cool when you're building your site out to be testing different areas, but you want to drop that when you're starting to look at net profit, because you want to maximize that net profit to get maximum value for the sale. You also want to optimize your site for speed. We know a guy, there's other guys out there, but there are people that will help you look at your site and make some quick code changes that will help speed up the site. And so if you do that at the 6-month point, you'll be able to realize those benefits of improved interaction with customers, potential visitors. They're going to stay longer. They're more likely to stay on your site.
Yeah, at the same time, I wouldn't suggest switching to some ultra expensive hosting platform just to increase your site speed by 1 second, because that's obviously going to hurt the bottom line, and then you're going to be able to sell for a lower sales price.
Yeah, quick fixes.
Yeah.
Quick fixes. So you're also going to, if you have a link profile that's funky, you've done any crazy PBN stuff in the past, you're going to want to start cleaning that up. This is kind of your last chance. So if you're, I don't know if you guys do this that much, anchor text, heavy over optimization of anchor text or something, you're going to want to clean that up by adding some water to the soup.
Yeah, so does anyone use moz.com Open Site Explorer? Anybody? So that's probably something you guys should take a look at. It allows you to look at your backlinks and who's linking to you, or what links you've built, if you've built your own links. And something that definitely buyers are very interested in these days and they're concerned about. So if you have any Russian porn sites linking to you, maybe something you want to disavow and get out of there so that it doesn't look bad to a buyer.
Also look for duplicate content. So if you have any content, maybe product descriptions that are the same across the board, you're going to want to start cleaning that up. And sometimes it's not even intentional. Maybe you weren't even doing it duplicate intentional, but it just kind of it's all very, very similar. Start to clean that up at the 6-month mark so that those changes have time to kind of work their way through and are safe for the new buyer.
We see this a lot with dropship sites, especially the product descriptions like Justin was talking about. And it's not, that big of a deal, but it would be ideal if you did have unique descriptions for your products.
Last thing, 6 months out, install Google Analytics. So Google Analytics, based on a due diligence process buyers want to go through, it's a lot better for them to be able to determine things like bot traffic, fake traffic, your traffic sources, or really dig into your traffic. I know that not everyone's a big Google fan, I know, so if you don't want to use Google products, if you're adamantly not using Google products, a good alternative is Clicky. So you can use clicking in place of Google Analytics, and that's acceptable. Some that are not acceptable will be like AW stats and that kind of thing.
Yeah, any hosting provided stats is not going to be acceptable on our platform, and most buyers are not going to want to see that in due diligence. Google Analytics is really the de facto standard. And I know there's a lot of problems, people concerned about it, but honestly, from a dropship sort of routine or angle, I would say Google Analytics is the best. Who here is using Google Analytics? All right, so we don't have a problem with that. Yeah.
Yeah, Google Analytics is good. It's just so much easier for buyers to determine whether the traffic's legit or not. So. All right, let's move into 3 months out. Based on our last presentation, you should have this down, but make sure you document in all of your processes. And this is going to make it a much smoother transition. A lot of times, buyers, if it's somewhat complicated or if they're at all concerned about whether or not they're going to be able to buy your business and take it over and run it, what they'll do is they'll hold back money. So they'll pay you 50% up front and 50% over the next 6 months. That'll be an offer they have, or 70% and 30% after training and turnover. The reason is they're scared or worried that they won't be able to step in and fill your shoes because you've got all that shit in your head, right? So that's one of the reasons you're gonna have the standard operating procedures, you're gonna have VAs that are running the business, and you can then turn that whole thing over and a buyer can take over the site confidently.
I can't tell you how important this is. I can't overemphasize it, because most buyers want some sort of passive investment or investment that they can grow by working, on the business instead of in the business. They don't want to they don't want to buy a job.
I don't know. I argue with Joe. So we argue on this one, right? A portfolio investor wants to buy passive income. So they want VAs in place. They want everything in place. They don't want to buy themselves a job. It's true. But there are other guys that are like, do it yourself David is the profile type. Do it yourself David wants to get in and play around. He wants to tinker with the site. So it's funny. Like us too. We start to have these preconceptions of what we think a buyer wants, and then we're blown away because they're like, "No, I want this," and we're like, "Shit, I didn't know."
Yeah,
that's true. So anyway, document and make sure you have SOPs in place. Cut your time and replace yourself with VAs. This is definitely important for portfolio investors. So the people that don't want to be spending time and buying themselves a job from you. Make sure you review your financials. Did you cut the useless expenses? Is your revenue and profit verifiable? Do you have a profit and loss? I think that's especially important in the e-commerce space.
Are you guys using QuickBooks or Xero or something like that to track their expenses?
What do you guys use? Like
FreshBooks.
Do you talk about that at all, Anton? Well, if you're Bala, you can just send it to your accountant. But what do you have any recommendations for them for their dropshipping stores, like spreadsheets, basically? Yeah.
Okay. The key thing is to have it tracked.
Yeah.
So if you're not tracking that now,
By store.
You really need to have it tracked, especially if you have multiple dropship stores, have it separated. That makes it much easier in terms of a sale. Otherwise, you come to the table and you don't have your documentation. It makes buyers uneasy, and they're going to want a heavy discount because you don't have everything tracked.
The last, another bit here is that you need to have an online presence. It's 2014, and you just got to be online, right? I know there are certain reasons, like people, based on their jobs or whatever, that they have a much more limited online footprint. Like Mike, for example, worked for a trading company, and they don't allow, it's weird, they don't allow you to be on Facebook and Twitter and all this stuff and share your information, which is really odd. So maybe you have a job like that, but the thing is, when we're doing the vetting process and we recommend due diligence to people, the very first step we have people do is verify that the seller is a real person, has real friends on Facebook, went to his buddy's barbecue last week and people were commenting, has a LinkedIn profile with real connections from real people that are working real jobs. Like, this is important because it automatically cuts out a bunch of scammers. Most scammers would rather do it under someone else's name, under a fake name. So not everyone, but some of them. So it automatically discounts all the fake people. So for you, since you don't want to be fake people, make sure you have a good profile and that you're really online so you're verifiable.
Yeah, it makes it that much tougher. We've sold with sellers that don't have anything online, but I demand a lot of personal documentation.
So security card.
Yeah, passport,
type.
ID card. Yeah, it just makes the sale that much tougher. And buyers, if you don't have any sort of online presence, but you have a huge online store, they're kind of like, huh? How does that work?
So another thing you can do at 3 months out is start looking for strategic buyers. Like we said, like that's your highest value. You're more likely to get the biggest multiples. You can start shopping strategic buyers, start looking out for them at that point, and start looking. I mean, you should, if you're building like a larger store specifically, you should be involved with your competition. In your industry, you should know who your competition is, maybe even have conversations with them. I mean, kind of get to know them a bit. And this is a great opportunity for you to see if they're open to acquiring your business. You want to review your traffic. Is it stable or growing, declining? Is it seasonal? How about the changes you made 3 months ago? How is it starting to affect your business? Has it put it on a good trajectory? Has it bumped it so much that you may want to wait and hold off on your sale a bit to kind of get through that growth phase? That's scary for sellers to sell when you're on this huge incline. It's like, oh my God, am I selling the farm? And sometimes sellers have. So they sell a business and 6 months later, it's doing double what it was doing previously. So you do want to make sure that you're selling at an optimal time for you. You want to make sure that whatever terms of service you have with your supplier, your vendor, your affiliate, you want to make sure that shit's clean. you want to make sure that you're going to be able to transfer your supplier, your affiliate deal, whatever it is, to the new buyer, that they're going to be able to take that over and run with it.
Yeah, if you have a special deal with your supplier, your dropship store, you have a special deal, you're getting a lower rate than is normally given to anyone else, you got to make sure that's transferable to the new owner, because that's going to be dependent on how much money they make. So if they have to start a new account with this dropshipper and they don't get the same rates that you're getting now, that's going to be a big problem.
All right, so now you're at 1 month out. You're about 30 days from actually listing and selling your site. You want to have your plan in place for training, for site turnover for the new buyer. So you've got all that documented. You're actually going to start shopping for a broker or a platform that you can sell your site on. You want to see kind of who you think is going to be able to help you get the best price, best value for your website and get the deal closed. You want to turn off your privacy on your Qzx. You're going to want to make it very clear that it's you that owns the site.
Yeah, we've seen this before where people use like a pen name, or people are very concerned about having their name out there to own the site. But I can tell you that buyers love to look you up on Qzx and see you own the domain name. It makes it that much easier. So, the last month before selling the site, turn that Qzx privacy off if you're using it, and then, let's go ahead and get the site sold.
Yeah, so the other thing you want to do is to find alternate providers. Maybe you have only one source for your products, your goods, your services, whatever. You're going to want to find a couple others. Buyers don't like one point of failure problems, right? Because it could be a situation of them, we've seen a situation. Here's kind of an advanced scam, I would say, is that the supplier is also the retailer. So I'm a supplier, and I also have this retail site that I'm selling, right? And I'm giving myself a sweetheart deal on the product. So I've got huge margins on this deal. I sell the site, 2 months later, I start raising the prices, right? So I'm sucking up their margin. And it's legit, but it's pretty, you can actually do that, and it's a pretty scammy way to do business. So if you only have one supplier, that may be a concern of a buyer, that maybe it's not you, but maybe the supplier raises prices or cuts you off or whatever. So when you're selling a site, have a couple other suppliers out there, even if you're not using them, that are available that you can point to. Right?
Yeah, and even if they're a higher price.
It limits the point of failure. Your time spent, everything in terms of your financials, have this clearly laid out. And that's something generally your broker will do for you. You provide a spreadsheet, they'll actually pretty it up for you. But you're going to want to be able to provide that information to them. You've been tracking it the whole time, so it's ready to go now.
Above and beyond you as a person, as the seller, the next thing that buyers are going to look at is the financials of the site or company. And you might be saying, oh, my site doesn't make that much money, and I don't really worry about tracking it. It's something that you do from the beginning. It makes it much easier later on.
If you're listing on a platform like Flippa, for example, it's a great idea to have a screencast of your earnings, your traffic, that kind of thing. Screenshots can be faked pretty easily, whereas video can be faked too for these, but it's a little more difficult. You have to be a bit more savvy to do it. So video is trusted, it's more trusted. So if you're listing on something like Flippa, have video.
Yeah, and it makes it much easier, especially when you have a general audience like that, than having to talk to every single buyer and explain the same thing over and over. If you have a video that explains everything, again, you can kind of weed out the guys who are not very serious or not interested and see the ones that are.
If you work with us, we'll actually either log in for you and check it and verify everything with screenshots ourselves and then vet those earnings, or we'll have you do it live with us so that we can review everything and then vet those earnings for our buyers. You want to be able to share Google Analytics or be able to add users to Google Analytics so they can run their own reports. Just having screenshots of analytics is enough. Have them be able to dig in and play around with your account.
Yeah, make sure you're an admin in Google Analytics, or that the admin username, because people are going to want to be added in and run their own reports directly.
Are any of you guys at all interested in buying sites at all, or just selling sites? A couple of buyers maybe. There's a whole bunch of tricks like due diligence stuff. If you want to ask us questions about that after, I would be happy to help you with that. There's some tricky shit people are doing like that. Okay, so you might have some funny referral sources from some forums you've been a part of. where you have a very high, post count and like you have a presence there, you're going to want to be able to reference that and explain it. A lot of times it's going to require that you include that forum account, right? Because if you went in there and changed all the links and 30% of your traffic is coming from this forum, that's to be a concern of a new buyer. So you're probably going to have to include that. We did it recently where a bunch of the sales and traffic was coming from the Warrior forum, so we forced them to include the Warrior forum account in the sale. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good for the buyer. You guys do that too, right? You get different forums and stuff that are important to your niche for traffic.
Anyone doing forum promotion out there for their site?
No. A little bit. Wow, that's a good trick. Anyway. All right, so still listing your site. Make sure that all of in the listing itself, make sure that your financial information matches top to bottom. The worst thing you can do is say that, I made this much over 3 months, and then at the bottom of the listing you say a totally different number. You're gonna look like a lying piece of shit, right? I mean, like if your numbers don't match, like what else are you screwing up? What else are you messing up? So you need to be very, very explicit in the date ranges on your earnings and on the traffic. Make sure that you state whether it's sessions or page views, that kind of thing. Be very, at 3 months out, to start looking for strategic buyers. Like we said, like that's your highest value. You're more likely to get the biggest multiples. You can start shopping strategic buyers, start looking out for them at that point, and start looking. I mean, you should. If you're building like a larger site specifically, you should be involved with your competition. In your industry, you should know who your competition is. Maybe you would have conversations with them. I mean, kind of get to know them a bit. And this is a great opportunity for you to see if they're open to acquiring your business. You want to review your traffic. Is it stable, growing, declining? Is it seasonal? How about the changes you made 3 months ago? How is it starting to affect your business? Has it put it on a good trajectory? Has it bumped it so much that you may want to wait and hold off on your sale a bit to kind of, get through that growth phase? That's scary for sellers to sell when you're on this huge incline. It's like, oh my God, am I selling the farm? And sometimes sellers have. So they sell a business and 6 months later, it's doing double what it was doing previously. So you do want to make sure that you're selling at an optimal time for you. Ultimately, you're looking for you want to make sure that whatever terms of service you have, like your supplier, your vendor, your affiliate, you want to make sure that shit's clean. You want to make sure that you're going to be able to transfer your suppliers or affiliate deal, whatever it is, to the new buyer, that they're going to be able to take that over and run with it.
Yeah, if you have a special deal with your supplier, your dropship store, and a special deal, you're getting a lower rate than is normally given to anyone else, you got to make sure that it's transferable to the new owner, because that's going to be dependent on how much money they make. So if they have to start a new account with this dropshipper and they don't get the same rates that you're getting now, that's going to be a big problem.
For sure. Right. All right, so now you're 1 month out. You're about 30 days from actually listing and selling your site. You want to have your plan in place for training, for site turnover for the new buyer. So you've got all that documented. You're actually going to start shopping for a broker or a platform that you can sell your site on. You want to see kind of who gets you, who you think is going to be able to help you get the best price, best value for your website, and get the deal closed. You want to turn off your privacy on your Qzx. You're going to want to make it very clear that it's you that owns the site.
Yeah, we've seen this before where people use like a pen name, or people are very concerned about having their name out there on the site. But I can tell you that buyers love to look you up on Qzx and see you own the domain name. It makes it that much easier. So, the last month before selling the site, turn that Qzx privacy off if you're using it, and then, let's go ahead and get the site sold.
Yeah, so the other thing you want to do is to find alternate providers. Maybe you have only one source for your products, your goods, your services, whatever. You're going to want to find a couple others. Buyers don't like one point of failure problems, right? Because it could be a situation of them, we've seen a situation. Here's what's an advanced scam, I would say, is that the supplier is also the retailer. So I'm a supplier, and I also have this retail site that I'm selling, right? And I'm giving myself a sweetheart deal on the product. So I've got huge margins on this deal. I sell the site, 2 months later, I start raising the prices. right? So I'm sucking up their margin. And it's legit, but it's pretty, I mean, you can actually do that. It's a pretty scammy way to do business. So if you only have one supplier, that may be a concern of a buyer, that maybe it's not you, but maybe the supplier raises prices or cuts you off or whatever. So when you're selling a site, have a couple other suppliers out there, even if you're not using them, that are available that you can point to.
Yeah, and even if they're a higher price.
It limits the point of failure. I've seen some people get pretty crazy in the flip of comments because, you know, I feel like people are attacking you. They're attacking your website. It almost feels like they're attacking you personally, especially if you kind of like put yourself in your business. You're like, how dare you? But you got to be cool online, especially in the public comments. So be quick to respond, answer with grace, and that'll take you far. Let's talk a little bit about the post-sale process. Let's say you've got a dude, he wants to buy it, it's a done deal. Here's kind of how it works with us. So let's say that we get an offer, someone makes an offer. Pretty often we get pretty close to list because we're priced, I think, in the right range. Once in a while, we slightly below. But once you say yes to the deal, payment is received and held by Empire Flippers. So we're basically holding the money. The website is transferred by us to the buyer. So we'll walk you through the process of getting the site transferred. Once the buyers confirm that they've received traffic and earnings, which can take up to a week, then payment is released to the seller, and that's usually via wire. We pay the wire fee and everything. So the deal isn't done until all 4 steps there have been completed. So we've had now twice where during the transfer the deal fell through. Both times, well 3 times actually. Yeah. 2 times it was because the site went to shit during the transfer. It was an update, and then most recently it was the PBN update that happened recently. It was in transit, and then the deal ended up falling out because all these things happened.
Yeah, so the buyer took it over, looked at the traffic, and noticed it was half or a quarter of what it should be. And we went in and looked if there was any problems, and noticed that there had been a Google penalty applied. So we reversed those sales and gave the money back to the buyer. So the third case is kind of funny.
That's crazy. So this girl was going to sell with us. She was fine. She was down to sell with us, no problem. She had all her ducks in a row. We list it. We get it sold. It was $65,000 deal. We get the money wired into our account. We say, hey, look, congratulations, sold your site. We're going to go ahead and start the transfer process. Get the site transferred to the buyer. They can verify it, and then we'll send you the money. And she says, no, I'm not doing that. We go, well, why not? You have, that's the process. She goes, no. You wire me the money. I'll verify I received the money, and then I'll transfer the site over. We're like, no way. You're totally screwing the seller. It's up to you, hoping that you actually transfer the site. So we had to go back to this buyer who just wired us the money and say, sorry, we can't actually recommend you. We just can't do it. We just can't do it. It puts you at too much risk. Like, you can get screwed on this deal.
Yeah, so we gave the money back and banned the seller from selling with us.
So the point to you is just know that at some point you're going to have to put some trust in on this deal. So you are going to be transferring the site to the buyer while you don't have the money. Every broker, escrow company, everyone does it that way. That's typical. Just make sure you're working with someone reputable. But yeah, any reputable broker, escrow.com, it's all done that way.
If you have a smaller site, we can pay you out via PayPal. We can also pay out via Bitcoin if you prefer to be paid that way. But it's just up to you. I'm willing to work with sellers on payment details.
Yeah, Bitcoin is the new thing. So we're taking Bitcoin for payment. It's pretty boss. People want to hide their taxes. I'm not saying anything, but you know what I mean. I'm cool with it. So let's talk a little bit about resources. That's basically it for selling the sites. We've got a couple of resources we want to share with you. The first would be, well, that's one. So we're going to give everyone that attended this thing a free listing. So you can list your site. You don't have to pay a listing fee or anything, and we'll let you submit your site for free with us. It's at empireflippers.com/DSL members. So we'll go ahead and take a look at your site. There's another link we wanted you to take a look at. It's called the.
We usually charge $297 for the listing fee. So if you do want to do it, then.
Yeah. So just as a thank you. And then there's another thing that we're. Last thing, we've got a valuation tool. It's empireflippers.com/valuation-tool. And it's basically, we'll take a look at all the information you submit to it and give you an idea as to the value of your site. This is really new for us. We're still testing through it. We'd love for you to take a look, see if you think it's accurate, and give us some feedback on it and let us know.
You might encounter some bugs, so it is in beta.
Yeah.
Just let us know, but it's pretty cool, so check it out.
So one thing we didn't talk about is like just the value of the site. So with us, it's generally always 20x. That's the way it is right now. So
20x monthly
20x monthly net profit. So for example, if you have a site making $1,000 a month, we have buyers willing to pay $20,000 for that site. We take 15%, so we end up with actually 17x. 2,000 it would go for 40,000 bucks in terms of a sale. We do get lower price offers up to the seller whether they take it or not, but we get pretty close to list because our pricing is pretty reasonable. All right, you guys have any questions about selling your sites, about listing your sites, about the process?
My site is seasonal, so it takes us in summer and after in winter. You said it's like 3-month average. How would that work?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the question is,
he's asking whether we will take a seasonal site because we generally do like a 3-month average.
So with seasonal sites, we look over a longer period and up to 12 months sometimes, depending on how seasonal it is. So we would just move the average over a longer period for that. The 3-month thing is just a measuring stick that we've started with, and that works for affiliate sites and non-seasonal sites, but sometimes dropship sites or e-commerce sites definitely need to be over a longer period. So it'd be something I would work with you after you submitted your details.
Some are more seasonal, like a pool cleaning supply company is seasonal, but it's not crazy, whereas like a Christmas lighting company is awfully seasonal.
Halloween is the worst seasonal.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks a lot. Do you have to sign a non-compete clause after I sell my business? Because eventually I want to do a private label, but I want to swing with it.
Well, so this is the thing about contracts again, right? Like, and we tell buyers this, like, yes, we can get the seller to sign a non-compete, but unless you can enforce that, what the hell's the point, right? Like anything that's not enforceable is not even worth it. I mean, now you can ask them to, like a gentleman's agreement, but this person's in Australia, you're in the US, so you really need to go after them for that non-compete, not unless it's several $100,000. So the best answer is it depends. Sometimes they'll ask you not target the exact same keywords. I think that's the cool thing to do. But if you're going after a parallel or a very similar niche, but not the exact same, I don't think there's any problem with that at all.
Hey guys, thanks a lot. So my shop would be in German. Do you guys have German buyers, and how does that work?
We have a bit of a German audience. We have this German guy that links to us, like our monthly reports and everything, and so we got like a German audience out of that. But we don't take foreign language sites, and the reason for that is it's just too hard for us to verify or validate. So we can't actually vet the sites effectively enough to do it. I think there's a huge market for that. So if you wanted to broker sites in the Spanish market or in like foreign language markets, there's something to that, but it's not something that we do.
Yeah, it would also be hard for me to sell the site because I don't speak German. So how would I find these German buyers? They might speak English, but they might not, and then it does make it difficult. We would need staff that speaks the local language.
We were on a phone call though the other day, or it was a few weeks ago or a month ago or something, where the seller was a Chinese national and the buyer was a Chinese American, and they were speaking Chinese, and we were just listening in. Like, holy shit! Crazy world. Yeah, right. Screw these guys. Let's just talk. Do business. We used to worry about that, by the way, and it sucks when you're in a marketplace situation where you could get cut out. But our guiding philosophy is most people try to do good business, and we provide enough value where we think it's worth it. And for the people that do cut us out, well,